Gilfix webinar, 2024 estate planning updates, what you need to know and action items you can take to protect yourself, your family, and future generations. And as we jump in, I want to ask, what got you to join us here today? Why are you spending some time with us? And these might resonate. Are you concerned about your family's finances? Do you feel like the world is changing and maybe changing way too fast? I mean, if you look at the rate of change in the world, the world's always changing, but right now it feels like it's taking off exponentially. Do you feel like you might be losing some control in this incredibly changing world? Do you feel like a part of this, you're getting vilified for having worked your whole life to save up and to build up some assets, hopefully to secure your family? Do you feel like the laws and tax laws and the government doesn't really have your back? That like really things are kind of spinning and you're confused about laws and you feel a little bit overwhelmed and you just feel like nobody really has your back. And it feels like laws are changing ways we don't like. And I think the key about our firm has over 40 years of experience helping families through this. And I think a key point is let's focus on this. Control what you can control. That's what this is about. That's what I love about what we do. We help families. A lot we can't control. We can't control elections. We can't control tax laws. We can't control voter initiatives. We can't control crazy international issues that might impact our economy or our families. There's a lot we can control, and that's what this is about. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. And before we jump into the content, any other thoughts you have, Mike, before we get into the specific items we're going to review here today?
No, I'm just excited to reemphasize not just the need for being practical and think about your lives, but Mark will talk later about how we think you should integrate your legal and financial planning. That the more time goes on, the more we appreciate the need for coordinated planning. Now, it sounds obvious, but so often the financial planning side, an advisor doesn't know what the CPA is advising, doesn't know what the lawyer is advising. So, and we see people at cross purposes. How do you coordinate this? How can we take care of you more successfly and integrate everything that you need to integrate?
And so what are we going to talk about here today? So we have a lot to cover. We're not going to spend, this is going to be kind of a high level summary of these issues and what you need to know. We're not going to go into too much depth. We can give full, an hour, 2-hour talks on any of these subjects. If you have questions, enter them in the Q&A. We'll get to those later. If you're on YouTube, leave chats, comments. We'll try to get to those as well. 2024 estate planning updates. We're going to talk about updated Medi-Cal and long-term care planning rules. There's some huge changes in Medi-Cal, which is the California version of the federal Medicaid program, eligibility rules. Critically, some estate and gift tax law changes and some deadlines coming up. We're going to talk about that. Some retirement account updates, some changes in rules there. California property tax issues. If you've seen us on YouTube, we know we talk about some crazy new laws in California you need to be aware of and what you can do about protecting low property taxes for your kids and your grandkids. We're going to talk about, again, crucial planning deadlines on the horizon and then steps you can take to make sure you and your family are covered. So that's really what this is about. We have to point out this is for educational purposes only. This is not legal advice. We cannot advise you unless we're working with you one-on-one in a formal attorney-client relationship. So don't try this at home. This is really all just to educate, empower, and inform you. But to take action, you got to get expert help. We'd, of course, love to be that expert member of your team. So let's jump into the first area of planning here today. And actually, take just one moment. For those of you who don't, many of you may know us. For those of you who don't, we are Gilfix and the Pole Associates. I'm Mark Gilfix. This is Michael Gilfix. So Michael Gilfix and my mother, Myra Gerson Gilfix, really helped found Gilfix and the Pole back in 1983. We've been around for over 40 years. Francis LaPole joined as a key player in the early 80s as well. He's our tax guru, but we've served thousands of families throughout California. And if you're in California, we can work with you, whether you're in San Diego or Wairika or really anywhere. Via Zoom, it's very easy for us to work with families anywhere. And we're very proud of our heritage, been featured in the national media. We try to be thought leaders in our field. We've given talks at national legal conferences, we write books and articles. And we think about this stuff day in, day out, and we're a multi-generational team, as you can probably see, because, I don't know how much I look like Mike. What do you think? Do we look alike? I don't know. Maybe.
What a thought, huh?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy. So that's us. And our goal is to provide extraordinary value and return on investment for you and your family and peace of mind. That's what this is about. It's not about dry legal concepts. It's about peace of mind. So let's talk about elections, because this is not we're not going to talk about this too much, but I'm showing some headlines from 2022 from that election. And I think what's really important to remember about 2022, because it has implications for all of us when it comes to estate and estate planning issues and tax issues. If you looked at historical metrics, by any economic metric, the Republican Party should have swept the 2022 elections. There should have been a red wave. but there wasn't. And Republicans did take control of Congress. But I think the key is we didn't follow historical patterns in the 2022 election. So what does that mean? It means it's going to be really hard to predict what happens in 2024, in 2026. There are so many new factors and wild cards at play. One thing I like to say is don't rely on Congress, don't rely on voters to bail you out. If you have a tax problem based on current laws, do not wait. There's a lot we can do to protect whether it's your home and property taxes or your estate. You have faced estate taxes now or in the future. Don't wait. Don't rely on the government to bail you out. We have to act based on what we know now, and there's a lot that we can do. And Mike, I know you think about this a lot, how our world is changing in 2024.
Right. And our world, and actually you, viewer, as an individual, your world has changed. So we're going to talk about changes in numbers and the tax code and so forth. But, the value of your estate has changed. So you need to think about that. Has it gone up? We hope, probably. Has it gone down? What are the implications? Prop 19, which we're going to talk about, again, it's a tax issue, but it's your kids' future. And the more time goes along, the more we appreciate, again, that the world has changed when it comes to the inheritance of property and your home and vacation home in particular. And as you think about changes
in rental property, more than I think a rental property you're relying on for future generations.
And also, as you look at you, yourself, your family, what about health changes? Are there new challenges? Are these issues that you can't ignore that you really have to think about? And what's the impact on your planning? What's the impact on your long-term sort of multi-generational plan? The last point to me is really important. What's your feeling, you personally, your family, about your personal and your family security? Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling more exposed? We worry with the dramatic increase in the number of lawyers. So that does mean that there's going to be less quality generally in this wave of attorneys, and there's going to be more litigation because there's going to be more lawyers willing to take anything. So
and AI.
Yeah, we think about litigation protection as a huge deal going forward, and we can deal with it.
Yeah, AI, I think, is going to enable far more lawsuits, and because it makes it a lot easier for smaller law firms to file a lot more lawsuits. We're really worried about that. So it's a scary world. Let's talk about some changes in law and some actions you can take. 2024 critical updates to Medi-Cal and long-term care planning rules. Just as a high level, Medi-Cal is a California version of the federal Medicaid program. It can be a crucial tool in paying for certain types of long-term care. And Mike, why don't you lead us through some of the key changes? We don't have to spend too much time in 2023 rules because those are ending. What are some of the new rules that we need to be aware of?
The world of Medi-Cal is absolutely astounding to me. We have been working in this field for 40 years. We were working in this field before it was a field, before there was any awareness of the role that government programs can play when it comes to the cost of long-term care. So we've been watching it. We've been writing about it forever. Here's an insight. California is unique. We are so liberal and so helpful that it's wonderful on the one hand and it's problematic on the other. So what do I mean by that? Until January 1 of 24, there was a means test. There's a limit on assets that a person could have and qualify for Medi-Cal. Let's think about the long-term care nursing home setting where the cost can be $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 a month or more. In the past, a person couldn't have more than $2,000, and that may be what you remember. This year, it's $130,000. The individual in the nursing home can have up to $130,000 in countable assets. Many assets, by the way, don't count. The house doesn't count. Retirement assets don't count. So these are stocks, bonds, cash, things like that. The spouse at home has a lot of protections as well. Can hold on to about $140,000 in addition. Now, come January 1, 2024, the asset cap for Medi-Cal eligibility disappears. Only in California. This is the only state in the country where that's going to be a reality.
Billionaires on Medi-Cal is what we like to call it.
So there's going to be some remarkable headlines about billionaires qualifying. It's actually not that simple, and it's a lot more complicated. But in terms of fundamental eligibility, presumptive eligibility, everybody, y'all come. So what we're worried about, this is a very mixed development. Individuals who are middle class, who don't have a ton of money in the bank, who are struggling with healthcare needs and the cost of healthcare, this is going to be a wonderful thing. But now you got to think about the impact on our budget and will there be enough money to pay for it? And how is all that going to play out? So if you're running a nursing home around here, most of those nursing homes do accept Medi-Cal. They don't have to, by the way. Many nursing homes only go private. They don't accept Medi-Cal. You have to pay the private bill every month or you're just not there. it's their choice. One of the worries we have is that with more and more people becoming eligible for Medi-Cal, given the fact that the Medi-Cal reimbursement rates, the amount that Medi-Cal pays for someone to be cared for in a nursing home, that rate is much lower than the private rate. So if more and more people in the nursing home are on Medi-Cal, the nursing home will have less income. That may not trouble some advocates, but it troubles us because objectively, we need nursing homes to be successful. They have to have enough money to have staff, and we should scrutinize what they do. Of course we should. But obviously, they can't absorb a dramatic decrease in the amount of money they're getting every month, and we can't expect them to simultaneously increase quality of care. So over time, one of the worries is that more and more nursing homes will stop taking Medi-Cal altogether, underscoring the need for and the value of things like long-term care insurance, which many years ago, we wouldn't have said this many years ago, but for, 5 or 6 years, we've changed our tune. We believe, general statement, that long-term care insurance makes a great deal of sense. Keeping in mind that long-term care
not in every situation, but in many. So it's not perfect. We get a lot of complaints too from people.
Oh, of course. No, hey, what's perfect? Other than us, what's perfect? I mean, long-term care insurance, and the policies vary tremendously. You kind of get what you pay for. Rates have gone up. The underwriters who worked on long-term care insurance underestimated how many people would utilize the benefit. So, it's a moving target, but again, part of a comprehensive plan has to include thought about long-term care insurance. And I just want to add, this goes back to a point I made earlier that Mark's going to revisit, which is the need to coordinate your financial management planning with your insurance planning, with your legal and tax planning. All of these things have to fit together. It only makes sense. So when we do our planning for folks who are dealing with the cost of long-term care, and remember, long-term care is a spectrum. It starts at home. It can be in a skilled nursing facility. It can be assisted living. It can be what's called a CCRC, continuing care retirement community, like the V, like the Forum, places like that around here. We have to take into account countless tax issues. And many folks, attorneys and non-attorneys who advise about Medi-Cal, don't understand the impact on property tax and capital gains tax and estate tax and gift tax. You have to integrate sophisticated tax thinking and tax planning. Yeah. So just to say, it's complicated. It's extremely complicated. We have 40 years of successful experience. And if you don't think experience counts in this world, think again. It is critically important.
One thing that we point out in a lot of our talks is you spend your whole life trying to make good financial decisions, budgeting, where it's you fly coach when you maybe could have afforded business class on that long flight, or you take the courtyard view room instead of the ocean view room. One or two bad decisions when it comes to estate planning or long-term care planning or any of these issues can undo a lifetime of good financial decisions and budget decisions. So you need to have that team around you. And Mike and I co-authored a book called Facing the Reality of Long-Term Care. It's actually sold out right now. So, but we're probably going to get more copies soon. But the point is, we think about this all the time. So if you're worried about this, or as it pertains to your estate and financial plan, talk to us. We can always be part of that team. And I think it's really important we think about this ahead of time, because when there's already a crisis, it is often too late to plan. So we want to make sure your estate plan, your trust, your power of attorney address these issues ahead of time, and that we make sure that you don't make any bad decisions when you face these actual problems. We'll move to our next topic here today, and I'll share the slides again. 2024 estate and gift tax changes and some critical deadlines coming up. 2024 estate and gift tax changes, crucial deadlines. So high level, no big changes in 2024 from 2023, but that doesn't mean we don't have to worry about this. So the estate tax, this is the tax that is paid when you pass away, and when your assets go to your loved ones, or it's a gift tax as well. So you could, whether you give gifts during life or when they go to your kids after you pass away or whoever else, that's when this tax is imposed. And the exemption is how much you can pass tax-free with no federal estate tax or gift tax. 2023, you can give away $12.92 million per person. That's a big number, right? And for couples, that was over $25 million. So it only affects about 1 in 1,000 families right now. Maybe. And now, to be clear, in the nicer parts of California, where there's San Diego, West LA, Bay Area, it's a much higher percentage. But even in these communities, it's not that many families. But if you're close to these numbers, if you're single, close to 12 million, hey, great place to be, you need to worry about this. Or a couple close to 25, 26 million, you need to worry. But in 2026, it's adjusted to it with inflation. So the numbers are actually going up. 2024, the exemption is increasing to 13.61 million per person. It's over $27 million per couple that can be passed tax-free to your kids, to your heirs. And it's either when you pass away or when you're living. And that's really important because there's some deadlines coming. We'll talk about why lifetime gifts may make a lot of sense. 2023, there's also, a lot of people confuse these, but there's an annual gift exemption. This is how much you can give to as many people as you want without even reporting it to the IRS. Last year it was $17,000. It's increased with inflation to $18,000 this year. So you might be thinking, Mike, great, not something I have to worry about because I don't have over $10 million in my estate. Well, the first point I would make is if you own a house, in the nicer parts of California, the house alone, in theory, in the next few years is probably going to go up in value, and that might be worth more than you think. Your retirement accounts are part of your estate, investment accounts, savings account, life insurance policies, anything you inherit in the future if your parents didn't plan ahead with us, all part of your estate. So your estate's probably bigger than you think, but you still might think, well, yeah, great. I'm still not close to 26 million. Why should I worry about this? Here's why you need to worry about it. There is a cliff coming. In 2026, unless there is a major change in law before then, the exemption is set to drop by 50%. Why is that? Well, the current law sunsets. So when the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was passed several years ago, they increased the exemption, the amount you could pass tax-free. But for esoteric budget rules and I don't know all of these, but there are rules, they had to make this a law that ended at a certain point because it increased the federal budget deficit massively. So the bottom line is, unless Congress and the Senate and the president, all branches of our government agree, if they don't do anything, the exemption is going to drop by 50% on January 1st, 2026. Now, it is possible if one party controls all three branches of the federal government in a couple of years, it is possible it could change. If Democrats control all three, maybe it will get even lower, the exemption. If Republicans control all three, maybe it will go up. But when's the last time you could count on Congress to make any changes or to do anything? I mean, Congress is brilliant at not doing anything.
Hey, I have to say, so let's assume for the moment Republicans control everything. Look at how they fight amongst themselves. I mean, it's like two different animals. So even if one party controls all three houses, there's so much disagreement and so much dissonance within the parties that I still personally think that the chance of any chances of new tax laws that are beneficial, not zero, I can never say that, 1%, 2%, ain't going to happen.
So in other words, do not rely on the federal government to bail you out if you're going to face estate tax exposure in a couple years. So again, do you need to act? Here are the situations we think call for extreme action, taking action to potentially save your family, not exaggerating, millions of dollars. And it's extraordinary what we can do completely legally. There's nothing we do that is not completely accepted strategy and okay within the tax code. But do you need to act? If you're single and you have a net worth of over $5 million, again, if you just own a house in many parts of California, as crazy as that is, you might be close to that. You need to worry about this. If you're a couple and your net worth is approaching 10 million, you need to worry about this because your estate is probably going to grow in value over time. There might be blips here and there, right as the exemption is going to drop. And so what is the number? We think the exemption will be around 6.5 or 7 million per person on January 1st, 2026. And it is use it or lose it. So it's if you gave away $5 million right before 2026, you might say, okay, well, I gave away 5 million, but I still had 7 million left or 8 million left based on the old exemption. Surely I will still have that left, even if they drop the exemption. And no, the IRS just looks, what is the exemption? How much have you given away? So if you don't take advantage of the complete of all of the 12 or 13 million before the exemption drops, you completely lose any that you didn't use. If you gave away $5 million before the deadline, you got no benefit because you could have given away 5 million after. It's not like you get an extra amount added. So what are some action steps we need to take? So I think the key is be aware of this. If you're single, net worth, including your house, life insurance, everything is approaching 5 million, you need to be worried. Couple approaching 10 million, you need to be worried. Mike, let's talk about some examples. This is not comprehensive, but there are so many techniques we can use that can save, no joke, millions of dollars. You want to just give some examples or how we think about this?
So when we look at just pure mathematics, it would seem that maybe 26, 27 million, I mean, hey, that's a lot. That doesn't apply. Mark said it doesn't apply to many individuals.
A great problem to have.
Let's go through the thought process, because even later when the level of protection is lower, again, these points are really important. So why do we say on this slide that 30 to 35 million can be protected when that's more than the available level of protection for a couple? Well, the reason is that there are many tools and techniques that let us achieve transfers of assets out of your estate and very significantly discount the value of that transfer. So let's say you have a rental property hypothetically, and that rental property is worth $2 million. If you just give it away to your kid or kids or to anybody, it's a gift valued at $2 million because you gave it to them. They can sell it. They can take out a loan. It's theirs. Now let's assume that you give them a 50% interest in that property. You would think mathematically that that's a gift valued at $1 million, half of the market value. It is in real terms, perhaps, but for gift tax reporting purposes, it's not. We can significantly discount the value of that gift. Now, what does that mean? If we take a 25% discount, rather than reporting $1 million gift, we'd report a $750,000 gift, making $250,000 of that asset just disappear for tax purposes. The rationale is this, that if somebody owns a 50% interest in that property, they can't just sell it and get their $1 million, right? They're joined at the hip with somebody else. They're constrained and limited in their use of that asset. They can't just take out a loan. Again, they have to team up with the other party. And the IRS readily accepts that that's a legitimate reason to discount the value of that gift. So that's one way, again, of making a ton of money disappear. Yeah. Another point, for folks with larger estates, where you're well over 13, 14 million total, one of the items here, the second, is this thing called the Spousal Lifetime Access Trust, a SLAT. We love these acronyms. So the idea here is kind of simple, yet very sophisticated. One spouse takes the maximum number of dollars that can be given away this year without gift or estate tax. That's $13.61 million, and can put it into a trust for the benefit of the other spouse. That money is forever removed from their taxable estate. So one spouse uses the maximum, and the other spouse still has her own $13 million. Later, maybe $7 million, but still, we've saved millions of dollars by taking that step. Implicit in that thinking, by the way, is the fact that we're not stripping you, the couple, of financial security. Quite the opposite. We're very attentive to that. It isn't give it away and now you're on your own, go to the poorhouse. No. All kinds of ways of making sure you have income. You still have access in some ways. So again, many tools can be used. You're probably aware of a charitable remainder trust where you can give away an asset, have an income stream for life. Again, many others. In our book, which I think we can feature in a moment here, regarding planning for estate tax, beat estate tax forever, we have a chapter where we summarize not all, but most of the tools and techniques that we use and that are successful. And by the way, none of them are cutting edge crazy. Everything in that book, all of the tools and techniques are tried and true. There are some crazy ideas out there, not for us. So impact is tremendous. The opportunity is unlimited if you have a larger estate. You just need to learn about these options and then make some intelligent choices.
You need to take action now. We already have some of our higher net worth clients setting meetings in 2025. No joke. Like, I guarantee you, assuming there's not a huge change in the law, we think it's, I think it's maybe 90% likely it won't get overturned or changed. We will be inundated. In 2011, there was a similar deadline, and I think we were turning, this was before I was even with the firm, we were turning clients away near the end of the year. We did not have the bandwidth. So if you're worried about this, talk to us now. We can lay the groundwork. I just have to point out, Dad, you say, you're probably familiar with charitable remainder trusts. I don't think that many people are familiar with charity. Maybe people in our community, our client community are. Maybe if you're watching our webinars, you are. But, some of these are not that well known. But there's some wonderful charitable ways you can protect assets as well. That's a way to avoid estate taxes. Give it to charity, by the way. But, and we have webinars on this, estate planning for high net worth families. But most importantly, if you have this issue, give us a call, contact us at gilfix.com. Let's set a meeting to go over it, because the stakes are so high. And we have this deadline, January 1st, 2026. If you miss it, may cost your family, not exaggerating, millions of dollars. There's so much we can do ahead of time. So let's plan ahead. 2024 retirement account updates. We're not going to spend too much time on this. This isn't really the focus. Just want to point out some new rules. Retirement account, there was a Secure Act that was passed January 1st, 2024. The RMD, the required minimum distribution, the age at which you have to start withdrawing money from your retirement accounts, is going up from 72 to 73. That's good. It means you have a little more flexibility. And in 2033, unless there's a change before then, you won't have to start taking it out till you're 75. So it gives, again, more flexibility, because you get penalized if you don't take money out of your retirement account when you need to. So this is giving more flexibility. I'm just pointing out, as Mike mentioned before, we're forming some partnerships with select financial advisors to think about all these issues in a comprehensive way, to be aware of these retirement account issues, to be aware of long-term care planning issues, to be aware of estate tax issues. Some other changes, 529 plans. And January 1st, 2024, assets remaining in a 529 plan you might have set up for a child, you're not using it for college, can be rolled into Roth IRAs. It's capped at $35,000, and there's some other limits. Again, not going to spend much time on that, but there are some changing rules and some more flexibility with retirement accounts and when you have to start withdrawing money, and also what you can do with 520 plans and putting them into retirement accounts. By the way, we are big fans of Roth IRAs. If you can do those, do Roth IRAs. Just pointing out there are some changes there as well. 2024 California property tax updates, Prop 19, and what you can or what you must do. Protect your property if this is a concern. And if you see our YouTube channel, many of you subscribe probably based on our videos on Prop 19. I think we were first out of the gate. I think we have become one of, if not the top Prop 19 planning resource in the state of California. We're proud of that. We want you to understand the law. No matter what you think about it, you need to understand the new rules in California, whether you're for them or against them. Let's be sure we all understand them, and most importantly, understand the implications for our families. So Mike, why don't you take us through the essence of Prop 19 and what it means and what it changed, what the rules were before and where they are right now.
So this is not really a change as of January 1, 2024, but it's a current change. I mean, it's just really about a year old and hardly anybody knows about it. Our viewers, if you follow us, you do know about it, but you can't hear it too often. Prop 19, which I'll summarize in just a moment, the impact on you and your family is greater as the value of your real property goes up. And we believe, for a combination of reasons, that the value of our homes and our rentals, vacation homes, that they're going to continue to go up. So the impact of Prop 19, the harmful impact, is exacerbated as our property values go up, perhaps ironically. Okay, so what does it mean? We harken back to Prop 13, which we all love, I guess, which says that
homeowners love it.
In the 70s, that property taxes are rolled way back, and it was meant to avoid the loss of property within the family. It said, in effect, that property taxes should be very low. Then came Prop 58, and it said two powerful things. First, it said that you could pass along your residence to your kids, no property tax increase, whether you live in it or not. And it said each of us could pass along another $1 million in assessed real property value to the kids without a property tax increase. So you could have had a $3 million vacation home assessed at $400,000, and that would have passed along without a property tax increase. Prop 19 eliminates all of that. It just undoes Prop 58, and it erodes the sort of the ethos of Prop 13. It says, first, let's look at your residence. If you want your residence to stay in the family, and if it's significantly valuable, if you pass it along to your kids and none of your kids live in the house, there's a 100% reassessment. So simple example, the house is worth $3 million. Property taxes are now $8,000.
Which I have to point out, $3 million is a massive number. But in so many parts of California, that's not necessarily a big house. I mean, it blows my mind. And it's terrifying for people who have to try and get into the housing market. But just this, I know we're using big numbers, but in coastal California, again, San Diego, Los Angeles, Orange County, the Bay Area, Marin, in many places, that's like a standard normal family home. So I just have to make that point because I know these numbers are big, but sorry, keep going, Mike.
Well, you know, in the Bay Area, I think we are immune to the thought that that's an outrageously high number, even though I agree with you, it is. Yeah. Hey, my hometown, $3 million, you could buy the town. Yeah. You could buy the town, let alone some nice houses. So you know, we are California specific, and you know, it's our reality. Okay. So with the residence, again, if your child, in my simple example, if the child wants to keep the house, but they're not going to live in it, property taxes are going to go up to maybe $33,000, $35,000 a year from 10 or 8, whatever they may be today.
Whatever they were
and
before,
if the property value goes up to 3.5 by the time of your passing, the taxes will be $38,000 to $40,000 a year. If a child makes your residence his or her residence, then there's a break, but it's not complete protection. The first $1 million in reassessed value is forgiven. Harken back to my simple example, $3 million house. If the first $1 million is forgiven because the child lives in it, the new assessed value, it'll be $2 million. So the property taxes will still more than double in that example. They'll go to $22,000 to $24,000 a year. What if it's not their residence, a vacation home, a rental? no protection whatsoever. Complete reassessment. A client we're working with recently, they have a nice cabin in Tahoe that they kind of view it as their second home. They want it to stay in the family. I mean, who doesn't? But it is worth well over $3 million. And their property taxes right now are like butkus. They bought it so long ago. It's like under $5,000 a year. The family is comfortable. They're not mega wealthy. The kids are fine, but they're not wealthy. And absorbing that $30,000 a year property tax increase, it probably means that they'd lose the house. They just wouldn't maintain it over time. We're fixing it. We are taking steps to lock in that level of property tax. But let's not have any illusion here. This threatens the ability of families to keep property in the family. And increasingly around here, we understand how important that can be. We have particular concern about special needs families because so many of this is a major area of our practice. So many have a kid who has difficulty getting by, living comfortably, can't work. Your residence is the only home that person has ever known. And it's critically important to keep the home in the family for that child. Well, no exceptions. Maybe there'll be the $1 million forgiveness of property tax reassessment, but that's all. So the worry for so many folks who really don't have a fortune, how are they going to maintain paying the ongoing property taxes unless they put a ton of money into that special needs trust as well. So it threatens your ability to keep your residence or a second property in the family for the benefit of a special needs child or a child who just doesn't have a lot of money. We do have solutions. We have successfully locked in the current level of property tax for many clients. It can be done. So it's scary as time moves on, as the value of your property increases, exposure to this property tax problem gets worse and worse and worse. So you have to be aware. You have to take steps. You shouldn't wait. It could be too late on many levels. So again, here's one of those things where don't put your head in the sand and let's see some real numbers.
Yeah. So again, if you watch some of our webinars, you'll see this. But here's an example kind of similar to what Mike talked about. Maybe it's a $3.3 million property that the child moves into, right? So you have a house. It's a single family home, not that big in the peninsula of the Bay Area or in San Diego or whatever. And let's say your child moves in there and they're going to live there. And you have an assessed value of $300,000. That means you're paying around $3,300, $3,500 a year. You've had it for a long time in property taxes. Your child moves in, it goes to your child. Property taxes would go up by over $22,000 per year if we don't plan. Over time, what does that mean? So I circled over 10 years, it's over $240,000. Over 30 years, if your child holds on to that house for the rest of their life, that's almost $900,000 in extra taxes paid to the state of California. Property taxes are largely not tax deductible against income taxes. So your child would have to earn like $1.5 million or so to pay those extra taxes. It's mind-boggling. If they don't live in the house, add another 50% to those numbers. So the numbers are staggering. You could argue that Prop 19 was for property owners, at least, the biggest tax increase in California history. As Mike said, we have solutions, and you have to be aware it's not just property taxes. We have to be aware of estate tax issues. We have to be aware of capital gains tax issues. We've had some clients come in and say, hey, I talked to this other person, and they said I could do it so easily. I just do X, Y, and Z, and it'll be fine. And they barely charge anything. And we look at what they were proposed, and many of those techniques don't work at all, or two, they're missing another huge tax issue. So you have to be aware of all of this. If you want to understand Prop 19 more, you can see the video that we posted, Prop 19 Explain, the end of Prop 13 and what it means for Californians. As of this video of this presentation, we have over 140,000 views for that. But the most important thing is we have developed amazing solutions. Francis Lepole, our property tax and tax guru, has developed extraordinary solutions. So we have the Gilfix and Lepole Dynasty LLC process. Talk to us if you're worried about this. Don't put your head in the sand. So we can help you. Contact us at gilfix.com. We've had a lot of people ask, well, what if it gets overturned? I know this is really unpopular, right? Like we know there's efforts to get a repeal on the ballot, but let's keep in mind, the people we're talking to are living in the most expensive parts of California. We live in a bubble. And if you're watching this and it's an issue for you, it's a good problem to have. And we gave that example that Mike kind of talked about of someone with a house that was worth $3 million and property taxes were going to skyrocket and they have to sell the house. And some of the reactions to the video on YouTube were like, well, boo-hoo, you have to sell a $3 million house. You still get the proceeds of it. And that's true. And I think the point being that we can't just think that our echo chamber, our bubble, is representative of the entire state. So don't rely on California voters to bail you out. I have a lot of friends who think that Prop 19 is totally fair. If you don't already own property in California, you're like, why should multi-generational property owners get lower taxes? But we also know the flip side. A lot of people are going to be forced out of the state based on these massive property tax increases. So control what you can control. There's so much we can do to protect your property if we plan ahead. We've already helped so many families in California. Prop 19, big problem. We have solutions. Contact us if you have questions.
I want to change one thing you just said. You said, Mark, contact us if you have questions. I would put it differently.
Right.
I say contact us so we can take care of this for you. It's going to save your family hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think we skip a couple more questions and we take care of these things.
Let's take just a moment to just talk about the implications of the 2024 election. So we touched on this. I just want to make it clear. We have no idea what will happen in 2024. I mean, we live in unprecedented times. So whether we're talking about California elections, whether new tax laws will be repealed or passed, or federal elections that can affect estate and gift taxes massively, we live in unprecedented times. So I just want to make the point that no matter what the economy is like, I think you look back 10, 20 years ago, if the economy was growing at X%, the party in power always seemed to win elections. If it was bad, the party out of power would always win elections. I don't know that we can rely on that anymore. We certainly can't rely on California voters to do anything predictable. No matter what happens, take steps that we know we can take to protect your estate from estate taxes and your home from property taxes. Just want to make that point. Any thoughts you have, Mike, about just the upcoming elections? They terrify a lot of people. I think we have some crazy things happening. But
I'm terrified. I'll say that. It's hard to see a wonderful, perfect outcome. Everything is so complicated. And for our issues today, now one last thing I have to say about Prop 19. There are many who dramatically believe in Prop 19. It's going to dramatically increase local tax revenues, right? So, this is not a criticism of them, but teachers unions and government employee unions are going to love it. And they have a lot of clout and they have a lot of money. They probably work hard to maintain Prop 19, this property tax increase. So,
and the realtors, the Realtors Association,
realtors
also
paid for the marketing to get Prop 19 passed.
Look at how few houses are on the market right now, and Prop 19 is actually already forcing a lot of sales. So without that, there'd be even fewer houses for sale. So, if you're a home buyer and you want to get into the market, you might say, hey, great, Prop 19 will mean more houses on the market. And if you're a realtor, more commissions available. By the way, we have a lot of realtor clients. A lot of them hate Prop 19. So this is not painting a big picture, just the California Realtors Association. Don't rely on voters or Congress to bail you out. Control what you can control. And on that note, let's go to some action steps. What do we need to be aware of? 2024 estate planning action steps, some critical planning steps that we think everybody needs to be aware of, or steps that you have to take. I think as we think about what we need to do in 2024, we need to reframe how we think about estate planning. It should not be a one-off. We see transactional services where you can do all documents online or whatever. Estate planning is not one-off. It's not just creating one document or one set of documents and we're done. There are so many places where you need to have that team of trusted advisors to advise you to make sure your plan is up to date and to make sure you're making the right moves whether it comes to a big financial decision, a real estate decision, investment decisions. We want to make sure that you're thinking this through with a team of advisors. Ultra high net worth families, billionaire and 100 millionaire families have had integrated teams in place forever. They're called family offices. And we see no reason why you shouldn't build your own family office, whether it's informal and you just have a trusted estate planning attorney and a trusted financial advisor and accountant, and you have them communicate, or on a formal basis. We're actually forming some structured partnerships with financial advisors and some tax advisors. Either way, estate planning is not a one-off thing. It's something that lives and breathes. And we would, of course, love to be part of your team, but I think the key is get expert advice for these big decisions. Why should only ultra high net worth families get expert advice on decisions? That's how the rich get richer. If you consider yourself middle class or upper middle class or whatever, you should have that team. Don't leave it only to the ultra high net worth. And we would love to be part of that. But let's go to some specific actions as well. So I think we want to reframe how we think about this. Estate planning should not be something you shop for based on the cheapest deal. God, good Lord, don't do that. Just as you wouldn't shop for medical advice based on the cheapest deal. But what are some steps we can take right now? And Mike, maybe you and I can both talk about this. I think the first thing is if you, I just want to make this point. If you do not have an estate plan in place, a living trust, power of attorney, advance directive, we have other videos about this and a lot of materials, you need to get one into place. Or has it been many years since you last looked at your estate plan? You did it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, more. You need to take a fresh look. Of course, we can help you with that. So you need to ensure you have that core baseline plan. Well, Mike, why don't you talk about some other structures and other issues we need to think about?
So many of us think that irrevocable trust is it, and that's the key, and you'll hear that in so many circles. You know that we don't believe that. Fundamental to a comprehensive, effective, protective estate plan is thinking about the next generation. We so often say, don't leave a penny to your kids. Don't leave any money to your kids. Be sophisticated, be smart, leave them to dynasty trusts for the kids who are able. We call them
family protection trusts.
They're awesome. We don't see a good reason not to do them. The protections are from litigation, from the divorce, and avoiding estate tax exposure for the next generation, especially for the grandkids. It just locks in inheritances, saves a small fortune, adds to family security, going back to that sense of insecurity that so many of us are feeling these days. If you happen to have a child or a grandchild who has special needs, a disability, there's a special needs trust. There's a different approach that has to be taken. Again, it has to integrate insurance planning with tax planning, with estate planning. All of these issues and all of these needs have to be dealt with comprehensively. So it isn't just do you have a trust, it's do you have an appropriate plan that really reacts to and is consistent with all of your family values and your family goals. So that's why having a meeting, going over these things is essential.
If you're a married couple, the structure of your trust could have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of tax impact. If you have an old AB trust, it may not be the right choice for you. And changing that structure could potentially save your kids and grandkids hundreds of thousands or more. And if you have a larger estate, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you need an AB trust and you didn't have it before. So you have to look at that. And do you have the right successor trustees, the right people named in your documents? So in addition to what Mike talked about, there's some tactical things we have to make sure are up to date. Mike, as the 2026 deadline approaches, the cliff, any thoughts here or Prop 19 issues? How would you think about that?
Well, you don't want to wait for the last minute. Knocking on our door, December 12th, 2025 is not going to do it. Part of the process here is not necessarily taking all of these steps right now, but you have to learn about the options right now. You have to process it. It's a big deal. So you have to think about the use of the tools that are available right now. We talked about the annual exclusion, the way to give away money. I won't get into it now, but there's a wonderful trust for grandkids you can set up. It's called a Crummy Trust. I love it. I call it the grandparents' delight. It's a way to integrate family planning, protecting the grandkids, being tax smart, goes on and on. If you want to keep property in the family, you can't wait. You have to deal with this issue. And the older you are, let's face it, the more important this is. Because it's upon your passing that this tax problem comes to roost for the benefit of the kids. So review your plan, make sure it's up to date, integrate your financial plan. That's the offer that we have, that we're integrating. You got to think about these things. We can help with everything. That's our goal. That's our commitment to you.
Yeah, and when we say integrating, yes, so we have a formal program, but also always happy to chat with your financial advisor to make sure one hand is talking to the other. So we can be part of that team. So I think one thing is I want us to make sure we overcome the 3 Ds, the danger of delay and denial. We hear a lot of people saying, well, we could create a protective trust, but I don't think my kids will ever get divorced. But every marriage is good until it's not. The divorce rates are still 30, 40, 50%, or I'll get to this later. Well, as Mike said, you cannot wait to the last minute. And once taxes go up, they never come back down. Or once you're hit by taxes, you can't take them back. Or I'll live forever. I have a lot of clients who are like in meetings are like, well, if I die, I'm pretty sure we're all going to eventually kick the bucket. So these issues are going to face your family. Or I already did an estate plan. I did it years ago. Maybe this is your parents, by the way, we're talking about. Maybe you understand how important this is, but your parents like, I did a trust. I'm good. Well, if it hasn't been looked at in a while, that could be actually worse than anything. Or I don't want to pay for expert guidance. I'll Google it, or I'll use ChatGPT or a new AI tool. Be so careful. Don't rely on that. There are so many mistakes out there. Don't rely on AI for this type of thing, because every situation is different and nuance is everything in these situations. You can, of course, stay tuned for more webinars. We're going to continue to offer webinars. Subscribe to our Gilfix Law YouTube channel if you haven't. We are, 1,500, 1,600 subscribers now. We're really proud of the growth. But of course, contact us if you'd like to explore this more directly. Just make sure we hope it's with us. Make sure you get expert help on this. You need it. Don't just try this at home. And of course, if you want to work with us, we'd invite you to join our client community. If you're an existing client, come meet with us. Very easy to find us We're Gilfix and LaPole, gilfix.com. You can contact us at 650-493-8070. We can, of course, review your existing plan, whether you worked with us previously or not. If you have questions, leave them as comments on YouTube. We'll get to some of those. We'll respond to those. We try to get back to most YouTube questions or comments. Share this video if you're watching this recording. This is live on YouTube. This will also be posted in segments on our YouTube channel, Gilfix Law. Make sure, regardless, that you have an expert team of advisors. If you have any assets, you need a great financial advisor who can help you think about these, tax, a good accountant and a great estate planning team. We're building these networks. We would love to be a part of it. But either way, make sure you have it. Don't leave it just to the 1/10 of 1% to have those teams. We all can do it. Let's control what we can control in these very uncertain times. As my mom likes to say, I hope everybody's staying safe, sane, and healthy.